When we look at studying for the exam when it comes to algebraic models, what I've done is, again, I've listed the numerous topics that you need to be able to do. So first of all, one of the concepts that you need to be able to do has to do with formulas. Okay, one thing is substitute values into the formula and then solve. So in other words, it's not really that difficult. It's just a formula, you substitute the values in. The only thing that you might have to be careful of, and that has to do with make sure you read the questions so you understand what each variable stands for. That's really the only difficult part there. The other thing has to do with rearranging formulas for an indicated variable. Now there's a fair amount of algebra involved in there, but I think that it shouldn't be that difficult. So for instance, if I have m equals td, it's a formula I just made up, and I want us to solve for d. So what I do here is I look at d and I see why isn't it by itself? Well, it's being multiplied by t. So what that means is I then divide both sides by t, and I end up with m over t equals d. It's actually quite that simple. Obviously, there's some more that requires more than one step. And again, when you redo some of your questions and if you redo your tests for that unit, you shouldn't have too much difficulty. Exponent laws. Okay, the other thing we did, exponent laws, make sure you write them on your sheet. Make sure you write them. Take the anchor chart and copy those down. Maybe give yourself an example of what those look like. So what you're going to be expected to do is simplify exponents and then evaluate, right? And also simplify exponents when the base is a variable. So what I mean by that, if I have x to the 4th times x to the 7th, that I understand here that my base is x, okay, so not a number, but a variable, and in this case I would add the 7 and 4 because they are being multiplied together, so I end up with x to 11th. Obviously I can't evaluate that because I don't know what the variable x is for an actual number. The other thing that we looked at was rational exponents, and this was actually very new in this unit for you, and this is where we talk about having we're raised to an exponent, for instance here 1/2. Now I'm not going to beat you up over this in a sense, so what you need to do is make sure you know how to work your calculator with that. So again, redo the questions on the test. If you have any questions, either look back at the video for that unit on rational exponents, or make sure you're asking me for some assistance. The other thing that we did here, and I have it section 4, is solving exponential equations. So this has to do with, remember the concept, if I have 2 to the x equals 2 to the 7th, that because both my bases are the same and they're supposed to be equal, that then x has to equal 7. Now obviously the questions that you're going to have are not going to be quite that simple. Okay, so for instance, if I take one of the questions that was from the text or something similar to that, I don't actually remember the actual question. I think it was to the 1/5 equals 0. So if I look at this as being an example here, what I need to do is my bases aren't the same and nothing is equal to each other. So I could add 1/5 to both sides. And when I do that, I end up with that. Again, my bases are not the same. What could I change them to? I could change them to 5, right? Because 125 would be the same as 5 cubed, and 1/5 would be the same as 5 to the -1. So I'm going to replace those numbers in my question with that piece of information. So 5 cubed, and we have 5 to the -1. Now, before I go any further, what I need to do is I need to distribute that 3, because power to a power I multiply. So I end up with 5 to the 6x plus 21 equals 5 to the -1. Now you can see my bases are the same. In both cases, they're the number 5. So therefore, I can say that 6x plus 21 must equal -1. And now we're just solving a simple linear equation. We're going to subtract 21 from both sides. So 6x equals -22. divide both sides by 6. So x equals, and you can either change it to a decimal or you can leave it as a reduced fraction. So I'm going to do as a reduced fraction to save me a little bit of time. So 2 goes into both of them, so negative 11 over 3. Okay, so again, redo the test. If you have a problem with a certain area, you can always rewatch the video for that section, and you can also ask me. So good luck.